25 years of experience working with individuals with disabilities, as well as individuals who are experiencing the changes and challenges associated with aging. I'm going to take a wild guess, but I think that latter part applies to all of us on this call. Dr. Montano has a PhD in human services with an emphasis on geriatrics, a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling, and a master's degree in business administration as well. Dr. Montano holds certifications as a certified rehabilitation counselor, a certified case manager, and a care management certified. She is a member of the National Association of Professional Aging Life Care Managers and a president of the Western region in 2018. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Montano. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Good morning, everybody, or actually good afternoon. It's after 12. Thank you all for joining, and you're absolutely right. We all are aging, but we've been doing that since the minute we were born. So many of you are still very, very young, and especially young at heart, which is important. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, let me share my screen here with you. I hope you can all see this. There we go.
We can.
So we're going to talk, can you hear it okay? Can you see it okay? If not, let me know.
That's great.
Okay, thank you. Let me switch the display settings since that might be easier. And so today we're going to talk about the aging life care professional and what that means. I've done this presentation before, and I don't know how many people have been on it previously, but I'm going to kind of run through what we do and then share for just a quick couple of minutes our website and show how you navigate that to find other people like me who do this work not only in San Diego County but throughout the country. So with that said, what are aging life care managers or professionals? We're typically social workers, nurses, gerontologists, really do have a knowledge and special training emphasizing geriatrics or gerontology. We follow a strict code of ethics and standards of practice. And our fees, which everybody always wants to know right up front, are anywhere from $100 to $250 per hour, depending on where you live and what each organization's structure is. Those are private pay services, and they're usually not covered by insurance, but some are covered by EAP programs. So I would highly encourage you check with your EAP to determine if that is covered through your services. But the important part is that an aging life care manager is there to help you during those challenging times of change and challenges with aging, and it can be at any age. My youngest client right now is 30. And my oldest client is 99. So we really do work throughout the spectrum of life based on what's going on. We work with people with various disabilities, various illnesses, challenges, etc. And our job is to provide peace of mind to the individual and the family, that they have an advocate and someone on their side to help them increase their quality of life. That really is what we focus on, is helping people find the resources that they need in order to meet those challenges associated with healthcare and or any other types of changes that they're encountering. So how do we help? We provide professional support, mainly by assessing the needs of each individual family, helping to create a care plan for them around their needs, provide them contact with different services, help mediate family conflicts. And really we are a crisis intervention when we're called during a crisis, but our real goal is to try to prevent crises from occurring. And this is why it's important to work with care managers earlier if you have the opportunity to do so, because a lot of crises can be mitigated if they're there to help put a plan into place. Once that plan is developed and shared with the family and the individual, We can continue to help monitor that care plan and make adjustments as needed, and then continue to coordinate services. And what that means is in the monitoring phase, we're making adjustments as things happen. We're keeping family members, professionals, everybody in the care team in the know of what's happening with that person. So I always like to explain care management as the patient or the family is the nucleus of the care plan, and then all of us are spokes in the wheel that help to make that situation function. So whether it's the care manager, the caregiver, the doctor, the physical therapist, the pet therapy, you name it. I see someone's picture with the dog on there, and that made me think of pet therapy, you know, music therapy, you name it. There's all kinds of resources out there that we can connect with to create that quality of life and peace of mind, help alleviate some of the pain that individuals are feeling from the aging process, especially when it comes to loneliness or confusion about medical diagnoses and what to do next. And then we coordinate that care. So helping to make sure clients get to their doctors, that they're following through with their care plans from their medical professionals. We provide advocacy for our clients at all times, whether that's advocating for them with the physician or with a property manager. In fact, tomorrow I'm going out to do an assessment on a home for a client with MS who lives in a home that has been modified to her liking, and now they're wanting for her to move, and for her to be able to have that in another place just isn't possible for her. So part of my advocacy work this week is to go and do a home assessment and write a report for the courts that says, you know, her having to move out of this location is just not feasible given her disability. So lots of different ways that we advocate. Sometimes it's just helping families understand that the behaviors that their loved one is exhibiting are normal parts of their diagnosis. And other times we are advocating at physicians' offices regarding, you know, their medication regimen, or they're, you know, asking for PT when we see it's necessary, asking for other services. So lots of different areas that we work with. So these are our core areas of expertise. As care managers, we don't do the finances, we don't do the legal services, as you see there, but we do have the resources to refer to the right financial person, the right legal professional when those two issues arise. You're having a upcoming talk with Ron Greenwald, who's one of my favorite real estate people in San Diego, because he is very well versed in housing for seniors and how to deal with the home and so forth. So I invite you guys to attend that because he is a wealth of knowledge. He and Patty are great. But we also are very well equipped as care managers on family issues, local resources, health and disability, all of the services that come along with that. And again, we already talked about advocacy and crisis intervention, but I really like to call it crisis prevention, because when we can put things into place ahead of time, we can prevent the falls, we can prevent infections, we can prevent a lot of things that might occur when someone is alone and unsupported. So I really like to think that we are crisis preventers, even though we do come in the middle of a crisis and help you know, work through the weeds and get things taken care of so that the crisis is shorter versus longer. So how do you know you need a care manager? Any of these items: someone has memory loss, they're refusing help, they need an advocate, they're confused about their options, they're in a crisis, there's family conflict. Any of these things are red flags. The options one, I think, is probably the most normal reason for, all these are normal, but I always say there's no family conflict unless you're the only one in the family. But confusion about options is a huge one, because there's so many resources out there, and there's not a, you know, directory that you can go to. And sometimes you Google and get sent on, you know, a wild goose chase with the options that come up. So really, we have access to all of these and knowing how to assist families and loved ones with any of these needs. With that said, some other times that you might consider Hiring a care manager is when, you know, it's just beyond your expertise. All of you have something that you specialized in, and none of that was, or some of you might have, how to deal with, you know, challenges and changes associated with aging or illness. You might need, again, information about community services. You might not have family support. We have a lot of clients across our different practices, myself and my colleagues, who have whose clients need our services specifically because their family members do not live nearby. They might live out of state. I even have a client whose family members live in another country. And so we become their local support system. And then we also have families whose, you know, children or loved ones live right here in San Diego or in the hometown that we're working, but their jobs and their responsibilities, raising kids and so forth, do not afford them the time necessary to deal with a parent or other loved one who's aging or having health issues. So that's where we come in. We do the heavy lifting and really allow the individuals to remain the family member. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with spouses where we have a well spouse and a spouse with some kind of diagnosis that's requiring assistance. And we come in and we do the care management and let the spouse be the spouse, or let the daughter or son be the daughter or son and no longer be the caregiver. So we really do work at preserving some of those family functions within that family unit in order to create that peace of mind and quality of life. Other times, you know, you just need unbiased information. Maybe there's two siblings that are in conflict about what to do with the parent. Do we put them in a community, or do we leave them at home with care support? Those are really difficult conversations to have sometimes without somebody there to mediate and help facilitate the conversation, giving you the pros and cons, looking at it from a social aspect, a financial aspect, a care need aspect. What do you need to keep that loved one safe? So lots of things that we can intervene on, especially with families, to help give them the information and make that bumpy road a little bit smoother. So anytime that caregiver feels overwhelmed or they need some type of assistance, we're there to help. And then again, also in abuse, neglect, or exploitation situations, we're always a good call to make in order to come in and even see if it's an abuse or neglect situation, but also to help put in some safeguards so that doesn't continue, and to be an advocate for you and your family. So really what we want to do is create that balance between safety and autonomy. All of us love our autonomy. We all want to maintain our independence. We want to still be part of the picture when things are changing, but we also have to balance the safety issue. I am really big on allowing all of my clients to have a say in what happens to them. And one thing that I say to all of my clients is, you will always be able to voice your opinion. We will always consider what your opinions are, what your wishes are, how you want to age, where you want to live, and what you want to have happen. However, I will also be extremely honest with you whenever I think that any of those items interfere with your safety. And the one area where we see this around the most is driving. Most people want to maintain their ability to drive, even when it's not safe. And that's when I come in and help them understand when it's not safe and giving up that independence, and how they continue to keep their independence without a driver's license. So all of those sorts of things, that's just an example of one of the many, many things that we do when we're trying to balance that safety and autonomy. So how do you find an aging life care expert? This is the website, which we'll get on in here in a couple of minutes. And I believe this is all being recorded and available for all of you, but my information is available as well, and I can always point you to that website.
Yes, this is being recorded. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. One thing about this website, and we'll be on it in just a second, is that, you know, like I said, we don't always live near our family members. And so if you're living in San Diego and you're, mother or father or sister or whomever needs support out, in Illinois or Louisiana or, Washington, this site here will help you to find a care manager in that area, and it lists all of our credentials and where we practice, and it's a really good tool for helping you find who you need. So why do you want to choose an aging life care manager from Aging Life Care Association? Because this association has within our membership, it helps us to maintain our certifications, our professional standards. It tells you our years of experience. It shows that we're licensed and responsive. And it also provides all of our ethics and standards of practice. So when choosing an aging life care manager, you want to know a number of things. What is their certification level? How many years of experience do they have? What's their response time? Some people are on call 24/7. Others are only, banker's hours. What is it your family member needs? What are their fees? What are their services that they provide, etc. So this is a good way to find out a lot of that information. And so that there are 4 main certifications that are accepted by ALCA, which is Aging Life Care Association, and that's a CMC, which is a certified care manager certified, CCM, which is certified case manager, and then there's a certified social worker, 2 social worker programs. And then here is my contact information. I am more than happy at any time to answer questions. I think I did this presentation in May of 2020. And I had 3 or 4 people give me a call. I had 2 people, we just did some chatting on the phone and they were off on their own. And then a couple other people, we did a quick meeting to review some things they were working on, and they were then able to continue on. So every care manager has a different philosophy in how they work. And usually if there's something I can do to help someone out in a call or a short meeting, I will do that. But, also I'm available for full services as well. So with that said, let me unshare this screen. If I can find out how to do that.
Just X out at the top.
Stop share.
Yeah.
And then I want to reshare this next screen. Which screen is it? Here we go. Share. All right. Can you all see the Aging Life Care Association website now?
Yes, indeed.
So this is our website, and here you can go and see a lot of the things that we talked about today. What is an aging life care manager? What are our standards of conduct? All of that thing. What are the events that are coming up? Education options for us, how to join, and certain things. But this is the button right here. This red button is the most important button, because here's where you can find an aging life care manager. And it's very simple. You just put in a zip code. And so we'll put 92037, which is, 037, which is La Jolla. You can research up to 100 miles away and put in a search filter. And once you do that, and hopefully in just a second here, it will pull up all of the care managers in that area. So again, if you had someone in another state, I don't know, my internet must be slow. There we go. Oh, there I am. I did not plan that, by the way. So there's my information there, but you can see all the different care managers, and it tells you what their credentials are. Stacy's a social worker there, and Butterfield, who doesn't have a picture, is an RN. So you can choose based on what you think your requirements are. And then you can also see where they're working. So Windward, for example, is one of my colleagues here in San Diego, and Windward Life Care has probably 5 or 6 different care managers who work for them. And some of them are social workers, some of them are nurses. So this, you know, you can go through, there's a nurse from One Word, and see what their case management team looks like. So you can do that. And again, you can put this in for any zip code or city or town that you are interested in. So here's someone who even came in from Newport Beach. Well, probably because we put the 100-mile radius in. So sometimes you might not know what the exact zip code is. That's okay. You can put in the city or even the state for that matter and get a whole listing. So this is a nice way to find folks. And then again, if you want to know anything more about us, you can click on any of these and you'll find a lot of information about what we do. There's that wheel that I showed with our expertise and a little bit of explanation about what that means. COVID resources. So this website has a lot of information about our profession, but also a lot of information for the general population who might be looking for some additional assistance and help. So I like to keep this program to me talking for about half of it and you guys asking me questions, because I've always felt that that has created the best opportunities for the group and use of this time. I think you guys have always had amazing questions and I'm happy to explain more on anything that I presented today.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. So jam-packed full of really great information. There's a part of your CV that I did not talk about, David, I would like you to discuss a little bit more, and that is your certifications in mediation, because it sounds like mediation really comes up when there are family dynamic issues. Of, you know, one person wanting one thing for a family member and another person wanting something very different.
Right. So I am certified in mediation. There's a handful of us in Aging Life Care that are. And when we're looking at mediation, we're doing that. We're addressing that family conflict. And so one thing about mediation is that all parties have to want to be part of the mediation, meaning you know, let's just say, you know, Bob and Sue are brother and sister, and they're having a conflict about how to take care of mom and dad. And so Sue gives me a call and says, hey, I want to mediate with my brother. And if Bob doesn't want to come to mediation, well, there's not a whole lot I can do because I can't force him. So as long as Bob wants to join Sue in mediation, then that's great. And what we do is we meet in a neutral location. We don't meet at either of their homes. We don't meet at mom's house. We meet in a completely neutral location, and each person has their time to talk uninterrupted for a certain period of time. We set up some ground rules for that. And then as the mediator, I help to facilitate the conversation. And I can't tell you how many times that resolution is, or the conflict, I should say, is because of an unsolved or unresolved problem from childhood. Either one of those two people felt that they were never listened to, that their opinion wasn't important, or there's just a plain miscommunication. They're saying the same thing, but because they're saying it a little bit differently, the other person is not understanding. And so with that, we can usually resolve those conflicts in 1 to 2 meetings, depending on how entrenched it is. And then that helps the family move forward. And once they do that, then we can assist with getting an appropriate care plan in place for the family member that they're trying to help. I have only had one mediation that did not come to a resolution, and that was because one person just really did not, in that group, and it was a large group, it was a family of 5 siblings. There was one family member who just did not want to participate and was so married to the conflict that she was unable to remove herself from that and really see what was the bigger picture. And it was very unfortunate That family luckily was able to move forward without her because she did recuse herself completely in the long run from any of the care dynamic. But we really do try to come to what we call a win-win situation where everybody feels like they were heard, everybody feels like they got something, and everybody feels like they can move forward with a good plan. So that's one of the things that I do, and that is usually, so if I'm called for a mediation, I'm a mediator and a mediator only, and then I would, if I see that they need care management, I would refer that over to one of my colleagues to do, simply because we don't want to have that dual relationship with the family. Sometimes when I am in a care management situation, a conflict will happen, and because it is a quicker mediation, I will mediate that. But if I find that it's too complex and the issues are too deep, I would refer that mediation out. So that's another thing that's really important to know is if you are looking for a mediator, what is that role of the mediator, and how or will they transition into other roles? Because if that family runs into a mediation or a conflict further down the road with their agreement, sometimes it's hard for them to continue if you are also their care manager. So having that ability for them to come back to you for mediation is really helpful. And one thing about mediation that I think everybody should be very well aware of is it is not legally binding. So you are agreeing with the people that you're mediating, that you are in mediation with. You're agreeing with them, and we do create a plan for everybody, a written plan of who will do what and what the conditions are, as a roadmap for them to move forward. But it is not something that you could then, for example, take to court if you're trying to get conservatorship, for example, over a parent, and say, you know, this is our mediation agreement and they're in violation and therefore I get custody. It's not that type of agreement. It is a good faith effort to try to move forward with the situation. So, and then again, mediation is completely confidential. So again, if Bob and Sue had an agreement and Bob broke the agreement, Sue can't then say, well, Rebecca, could you tell my sister-in-law what happened? That it doesn't work that way. It works just within that core group that's mediating, and it is confidential within that party, unless all parties agree to allow that information outside of the meeting.
Okay, Rebecca, I have a couple of other questions heading in a different direction, but
Okay.
before we leave this subject, can you just go one little step further? What if mediation doesn't work and it becomes litigious? Can you just real quickly describe, you know,
so
what
if
happens
if mediation doesn't work and it becomes litigious, I mean, if I was the mediator, then, you know, I'm out of that unless there's an abuse issue, and then that creates a whole other opening where I would have to report and would have to state what happened. But if mediation does not work and it does become litigious, and it could then go to arbitration, it could go to attorneys, and usually at that point the attorneys would battle that out. One thing that we do as care managers as well is we do expert assessments on family members or in these situations to help the courts determine what is the best course of action for that family. And so again, when we're called to do that, we would not be care managers as well. We would just be the expert witness in that case. I've done that previously where we've had my most recent case was an older adult whose caregivers had convinced this person to sign over their estate to them without the son's knowledge. And then when the son found out about it, he pressed charges. It went to Adult Protective Services, and then I came in to do an assessment of the care, to see how this person was being taken care of, and if there was any undue influence, neglect, or abuse on the person by the caregivers who had convinced him to change his estate planning. And so I had to write up a good big report, send that in, then, testify later on about what had happened. There was a lot of things that happened with that, but that's about how much I can say. And so these sorts of things do happen, unfortunately. And in that case, Adult Protective Services gets involved, attorneys get involved, and care managers are often those of us who work in this at that level will come in to do assessments and testify accordingly to what we think is in the best interest of that individual.
Great. Related to that whole area, a question that came in the chat: how do you convince a person that they need your services? And what if, they refuse to permit entry for people who would do assessments? What's the process then?
So we have a lot of tools in our toolbox in order to make that happen. And so sometimes we might have someone bring us over and say that we're, just doing a wellness check. A lot of people, they hear what we do and they're like, well, we don't want that. And depending on their level of cognition as well, we want, sometimes we do what we call lying out of love to make sure that, or compassionate truth. So I've heard both of those things, where it's, yes, we're telling white lies to the individual, but we're doing it in a way to get an assessment and a better picture of what's going on, especially for people with cognitive impairment of any sort. I recently had a family that the mother was like, absolutely, I don't need your help, but my kids need you because they're a hot mess. And it was actually kind of funny. And the kids agreed, like, okay, well, we'll hire her to help us. And little by little, she has agreed to work with me as well, because she thinks I'm doing this for the benefit of her children. And it is to the benefit of her children, but also for her benefit as well. So we do it in baby steps. We never push, we never force, but we try to find ways to get one step in at a time in order to help the person understand that they need the services. Sometimes it takes a while. There's no magic to it. And sometimes it's agreeing with them and letting them know that we're not there to, take over or help them lose their independence, but we're there to help them maintain their independence as long as everything is safe. And so, saying you're having a care manager come over, or what we used to be called a case manager, makes people quite nervous. But we have different processes for trying to get in and help people accept the services.
Thank you. Another question in the chat, really important, and I'm hoping you can talk about possible, requirements or testing or whatever. Who does the certifications? You mentioned several certifications you have.
So the certifications are run by national organizations. So the CCMC is run by NACM, which is the National Academy for Care Management Certified. They have a whole host of rules and regulations you have to follow, or standards, before you can even test. CCM is run by the Commission of Case Managers. It's also a national organization, and they too have that. So some require you to have a certain level of education, a certain number of years of experience under someone else who has those certifications. You have to attend certain amount of ethics courses or best practice courses, and then usually you also have to take and pass the certification test. I have mentored probably at this point about 5 professionals, either through CCM or CMC, to help them gain their service. So that requires me to do supervision of their work and have regular meetings with them in order for them, and then sign off on their classes and all that sort of stuff, to ensure that they meet the qualifications in order to take their test. And once they pass their test and they've met all of that, then they're certified.
Now, are there continuing education or retesting or recertification?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Every certification has a different requirement. CMC, for example, you have to do 15 hours per year, and you recert every 3 years, or you take the test again. And you can't do like all 45 hours in 1 year. It has to be spread out. CCM, I can't remember if it's 80 and 4 or 105 years, but it averages to 20 hours per year And they don't care if you do it all in 1 year or you spread it out through the 4 or 5 years. So, and they have to be approved. It can't just be any course. So it's either pre-approved by that commission, or you can submit hours after the fact for post-approval, but you have to really do a lot of work to show that it was within our scope of practice.
People are putting really, really good questions in the chat. Thank you very much. Another question in the chat, can you search for specific professionals with a specific religious background or knowledge set?
So no, you can search by that. You cannot search by that. But what you can do is talk to someone in that area, give me a call. What we would do is put it in our internal chat room, and we would say, you know, is there someone in whatever town who practices or has cultural background in XYZ or speaks these languages or whatever, and then we'll be able to find out, is there anyone in our association who does that? Because we are all very good at sharing resources.
Okay, great. Is being named a POA for healthcare enough to apply for long-term care Medicaid benefits on behalf of a family member, or do you need to be named as a POA for finance or conservatorship?
That is a really good question. And it depends. Usually you have to be the financial power of attorney. I would refer that question over to a Medicaid specialist in the state you're talking about, because Medicaid in California is Medi-Cal. And for Medi-Cal, I know you do have to be a financial POA. I'm not sure in other states because Medicaid is run differently from state to state. So I would say check with the Medicaid program in that state and what the requirements are, or you can consult an attorney in that area as well.
Great. I don't see it in the chat, so I'm going to throw this out there. And I think I had asked you at one point, and you talked about different sort of packages that you offer. Can you give our members just a quick idea of pricing, a one-term consultation, a sort of annual check-in, you know, your different levels of service?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just my services. This is not across the board for all care managers. This is strictly aging focused and the services that we provide here. I do a 1 hour consult. So let me start this. My rates are $165 per hour. I do offer a 1 hour consult at $100. So if you want to just talk to me for 1 hour, it's $100. If you sign our contract and start services with this, that $100 gets refunded to you. But if you just want to meet me one time and get an idea if you're headed in the right direction and then be on your way, it's just $100. So I discount it for you guys and then we move on. I do have packages. I have a program that's called the Bridge program. There's 2 packages within the Bridge program. One is a quarterly package, which means I meet with you once a quarter for an hour, and we have at least a telephone conversation or an email exchange once a month on the other 2 months of the quarter. And then I have a biannual package where we meet once every 6 months in person, and we speak or telephone call. I think it's every other month within that 6-month period. And those are packages for people who are still healthy adults, maybe just need a check-in here or there, need a little bit of services, but not ongoing services. And they're a package rate. I would have to look it up real quick. I don't remember my rates offhand, but it is a discounted if you pay ahead of time. And what it does is it's basically our hourly rate minus 10% for what that package would be. And I can send that to you, Suzanne. I think I've sent it to you before, and you can.
Yeah, but that would be great. That way I'll send it out when I send out the video to everybody. And do you recommend, I mean, whether it's you or anybody else that they select, but that healthy aging seniors consider starting on one of these contact, annual sort of, check-ins while they're still really pretty good shape, just to put a plan in place?
I do. And here's the thing, especially if you do not have a support system with the bandwidth to help you in a crisis. And I say that meaning if your family lives away, or your family members or friends, because some of us, our friends are our families, not necessarily our blood relatives, but our friendships have become our families. If they don't have the ability to help you during an illness or an injury or any kind of crisis, and you need someone to be there to advocate for you and to help put the plan in place, I highly suggest that you consider this, because the reason for us to do this bridge program was that we were seeing adults falling into crisis and then calling us in the midst of a crisis. They fell and broke their hip. They got a bad infection. They suddenly had a diagnosis of cancer, you name it. And they wanted us to come in and help them, which is great. We were there 100% and would do it. But we would have to backtrack to look through their medical services to know what they wanted. And in some situations, it's really hard to get that information when the person is in pain, when the person is sick, when the person just doesn't know for whatever reason. And so we're making our best guess. So we came up with the bridge program in the event, or in order to help to know who our clients are, so that if a crisis occurs, they break their hip, they get a diagnosis of cancer, they get a bad infection, we could easily step in and take care of the situation and help them move forward seamlessly. I look at it as an insurance program into a relationship that is going to really help you when you are, at one of your worst spots, and that's when you just have gotten a diagnosis or had an injury of some sort. With all of those clients, when that happens, they jump into our rate for that period of time. And once they're well, they go back on the maintenance program. All of our service, whether you're on services with us as a full care case, a full care management case, or you're on services with us through the bridge program, it is all concierge. It is how much you want and need at any time. We're not requiring any kind of, 10 hours a month or, 4 hours per visit or anything like that. It really is what you need when you need it.
Okay, and just to reiterate, there is no coverage either under a long-term care policy or under Medicaid or any other healthcare policy that would cover this. It's all private pay.
Correct.
Okay.
There are some EAP programs that will cover the assessment, but that's it.
Okay, great. Is the profession regulated state by state on a federal level or national association?
It's regulated strictly by the association. So it's the Aging Life Care Association that regulates those of us who are members. So there are a lot of care managers out there who are working as care managers, and they are not part of an association that is helping regulate their ethics and standards of practice. So Aging Life Care Manager is one of them. There's CMSA, which is Case Management Society of America, is another organization that care managers or case managers can join to have their professional ethics and standards of practice regulated. Our profession is not state or federally regulated. We're not licensed like nurses are, or even social workers. We're like nurses, social workers, and other gerontologists or related services that work as care managers. And so Aging Life Care or CASA, or not CASA, CMSA, Case Management Society of America, those are the two big regulators of our business.
Will you be sure when you send me your flyer on your services to also send me the association, that I'll be able to send that out with the video?
Sure.
Perfect. I do want to know, on that association website, is there a space or area where people give feedback on who's good, who's not good? things
You know,
like that?
there isn't, but that would be a really good thing, I think, to have. And so with your permission, I will bring that to the national board and say, can we have something on our website where people can leave feedback?
I think that'd be really great.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. What geographical area do you cover and how far are you willing to travel? Question from the chat.
I cover all of San Diego County. I do have one client in South Riverside County, which, long story short, I was supposed to go just for a consult as a favor to one of my colleagues, who was doing a favor for an attorney that she works a lot with. And 5 years later, I'm still working with that family, mainly because they just, I guess, trusted me and said, we don't care, we want you to come, and we're willing to do that. And so I've been with them for a long time, but mainly it's San Diego County.
Okay. And from the chat, would you personally accompany someone to, for instance, a medical appointment, especially if there are important discussions that are happening there, or would you just arrange for someone as a driver?
No, we would most definitely attend appointments. We are not a taxi service. We really do want to be in those appointments when it's appropriate and we're available. Obviously, if a daughter wanted to go instead or a wife wanted to go instead, we could attend via telephone. It's not uncommon for someone to say, Rebecca, I really want you there to hear what's happening and ask questions. But especially now during COVID, they'll only let one person in with my dad or my husband or whatever. And so the family member goes in and then they call me and I, converse with the doctor over the phone. So we absolutely do attend appointments. I mean, I think that for me, I think I attend appointments with my clients is probably 70% of my job. And really understanding what they're doing and making sure that all of the doctors know what is going on with that person.
Rebecca, thank you. I believe you work alone as opposed to in an office with staff and all that. You still appear to be very young, but one never knows, bolt of lightning, whatever.
Right.
Say you have a care plan in place with someone and you're no longer there. What sort of plan is in place for continuation?
So I have 2 care managers that work with me at Aging Focused. So there's 3 of us. I do have colleagues though that work in a solo practice, but all of us, and at least in San Diego and in most places, we are really good about helping each other out during crisis of our own, right? If I were to get sick, like you said, bolt of lightning, something happens, my team can pick up on any of my cases. So we here at Aging Focused, we have a primary care manager assigned and then a secondary care manager assigned to each case. That doesn't mean that the third person might not have to step in once in a while, but the 2 are working in partnership on each case and really know each case well. And then it's not uncommon for some of my solo practitioner colleagues to say, hey, I'm going on vacation next week. Can I put your phone number and name down on the email that's going out to all of my colleagues, that if there's an issue, they can call you. And in those instances, they would give us access to their cases in the event we need to. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go, oh, okay, Alicia Clark's cases, I'm just going to dig in and see what else happened in all her people. No, what I'm doing is if that person calls me. So if she was working with, Sue and Bob, and Sue called me and said, hey, Rebecca, our mother just went into the emergency room. Alicia's out on vacation. Can you step in? I would say, sure, give me your mother's information. And I would be able to go into at that point, Alicia's notes, look at it and know what to go and do. So we do work with each other in that way. We are very strictly regulated by HIPAA like everybody else is. And so when we were to do something like that, we would obviously have the client sign off that there'll be a covering care manager that isn't necessarily from our agency, but is going to be as a backup, and would they approve that they look into their case if an emergency arises. And we've never had any issues with that. Most people are very relieved that their care manager is going to go take some days off and recuperate and rejuvenate to come back, and that they've left somebody in place in their stead. And then one thing that our organization does is we're always talking about contingency plans. What happens to our caseloads when we retire. What happens if we do get, hit by a bus, or, any of those things that we always say it could happen anytime. So most everybody has some kind of contingency plan.
Okay, great. Thank you. All of the questions have been around, an individual or a couple, family. What about, so somebody, decides to move into sort of one of these continuum of care facilities. Can you also be involved in sort of checking out and ensuring that the person is receiving the care that's promised? And here I'm thinking of family members who may be far away, who are just wanting to make sure that their loved one is receiving, the excellent care they want for them.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Some of the continuing care communities require us as care managers or providers to go through some special training and jump through some special hoops, have certain levels of insurance, et cetera, in order to practice at their CCRC. But the answer is yes, we absolutely can. And I think it's important. Being placed in a community does not necessarily mean all of your issues have been resolved, because they have so many regulations. For one, understanding them all is very difficult when you're signing yourself up. They're great communities, but there are some things that people aren't always aware of when they go. Another thing too is that, just because you're in memory care or assisted living doesn't mean that you still have external needs outside of that community. So for example, the question about doctor's appointments. I have several clients who live in communities, whether it's a continuing care community, or it's just a memory care, or just an assisted living that's independent. And I still pick them up, take them to their appointments, make sure that the staff there knows what the treatment plan is afterwards, that they have the medications and the information that's necessary to follow through. I attend the care planning meetings that they have every 6 months to make sure that things are happening. If I see something that is going on, I let them know. An example, I have a client who I was with last week, and the caregiver was not utilizing the walker correctly, which put the client in danger. So I coached the caregiver, and then I came back to the community and said, listen, she's an amazing caregiver, which she is, but this was a little mistake she was making with the walker, and just for fall safety, I coached her, but just so you know, this is what happened. And they're like, great, we'll follow up on it and make sure that, when she's helping the client, that, the walker's used appropriately. So just little things like that. So absolutely it is, I think still helpful, especially if you're far away and you can't do those visits, to make sure that you're getting everything that was promised when you signed up for that community.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you have just been a font of really wonderful information. I have exhausted all of the questions that are in the chat. Nobody's raised hands. They've all been putting their questions in the chat.
Yeah, I've been watching.
I open up to members. Is there anything else you'd like to ask of Rebecca before we close this up? Wait just a minute and see if anything comes up. Okay, looks like we answered them all. Here's one more coming in. All right, aging focused and mediation website. Oh, that's you putting that in. I'm sorry.
I didn't put that in. Someone else did.
Oh man, that was Michelle. It looks like.
Michelle,
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you,
Michelle.
Thank you for
putting
giving
that
me,
up. I
a
appreciate
little
it.
prompt there. Yeah, that's my contact info.
She's on it. For those of you who don't know, Michelle Rivas Torres is a senior working with us at the Retirement Resource Center, and she's been with us since she was a freshman. Michelle has been a wonderful resource, and she's leaving us soon. She's going for study abroad in Italy, so we're very, very excited for her and wish her the best in her travels. Anyway, so thank you very much, Dr. Montano. This has been a fabulous seminar, so much great information. It will be posted up on our RA YouTube. So if you have colleagues or friends, members who you think this would be useful for them to see it, you can just have them go up on RA YouTube and take a look at this wonderful seminar. With our sincere thanks, we will go ahead and close up. And thank you also to members for the really great questions that you all put in the chat. I think we covered so much more than you had in your presentation. I mean, it's really great to have the Q&A portion.
Yeah, I've always find the Q&A portion in this group to be the most beneficial part. So thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Wonderful
great day.
afternoon, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.